everyone. Welcome to our regular monthly meeting of October 7th, 2025. We will begin with good roll. Adam Rafosa. Present. Cheryl Valentine. Present. Jen Stone. Present. Dick Taylor. Present. Mary Heaver. Present. Bill Thurlack. Alan Myers. Present. B.A. Lopes and Stu Hardy are not able to be with us this evening. We are also joined by Todd Romano, who's our Assistant Solicitor and Statutory Counsel, Ashley Sweet, who is our Interim Administrative Officer, Consultant Planner from Weston and Sampson, and Ed Rotella, our Land Use Clerk. As you can see, we are a little bit deficient in the microphone department this evening, so we are going to do our best to ensure that everyone here in the audience can hear, and everyone who may be turning into video of this meeting on our YouTube channel can hear it. So I'm going to ask for patience from my board colleagues and staff. If anyone has a comment or question, we will pass the microphone. We will wait until the microphone gets there. And then we'll ask anyone who comes up to be the thing at the other handheld microphone here. So thank you in advance for everyone's patience here. So with that, why don't we dive into our agenda. Agenda item number 1 is ECC Eagleville LLC, 2 Chase Road, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. It's a petition for a concept plan review for a major land development project. Proposed construction of 18,000 square foot construction office space in the center over at 22 Eagleville Road, AP Plat 105, lots 1, industrial building district. This is the next discussion. The applicant was here before us last time. Got some updates here, so you turn it over.
Good evening, everybody.
How is the green light on?
No, it is not.
Bill, say that. Yes, please.
All right, that's it.
I can hear my voice.
Go. Good evening, everybody. My name is Bo Akers, counsel from Grace Levinson, CNC Pump, Massachusetts. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, ECC Eagleville LLC. As you said, the address is 222 Eagle Road. Properties consist of approximately 27.7 acres. As you said, the zone is industrial. All budding properties are also zoned industrial. The existing conditions of the property are currently for construction material storage. What the proposal is here, and the plans you have in front of you, is for the construction of the proposed building complex to be a tradesman center and office space, essentially, that we have on the property. The proposed structure is 18,000 square feet, it's approximately 200 feet by 90 feet. The building, as I said, will be predominantly used for a tradesman center and construction office space. With it, it will include a lined subsurface sand filter, pavement for a parking lot, and a 30-foot wide driveway, as well as on-site wastewater treatment system. And moreover, I have with me Ms. Lynn Small from Northeast Engineering Consultants Inc. To discuss the particulars for this proposed project.
Good evening. I can hear myself.
Sure.
Lynn Small, Northeast Engineers. We're located on Down River, Middletown. The project, as mentioned, is currently used for construction storage facility. We are putting a new structure in the front of the property, closer to Eagleville Road, and it will be 18,000 square feet. We have perimeter asphalt and parking on site, a dumpster area. It would be serviced by a private well, which we have located on the plan. and a septic system. We have done test holes, but we have not done the septic design yet with the state of Rhode Island. But we do know that it's suitable. We have at least two suitable areas that we can get a septic system. So there's no thought that we wouldn't get an approval. And we have made sure those areas have been taped off so they're not used for storage of any construction materials today. The access to the site will come through a impervious compacted driveway, and we did sort of cul-de-sac turnaround at the end for any emergency vehicles, but you can loop completely around the proposed structure that we have on the site. The stormwater system for this particular project is independent of the previous project where we have the construction yard, and it will be comprised of a subsurface sand filter, which provides you water quality treatment, and then your underground drainage system, which provides you stormwater mitigation. On the west side of the site, we have a wetland series, which does end up triggering freshwater wetlands permit and RIPTES permit due to the size of the project. Those permits are in progress with the DEM, although those features are not detailed on this plan at this point. There is a riprap edge along the upland side of the wetlands that will maintain or enhance into a retaining wall. I don't know if there's any other particular questions, but that's basically the summary of the proposed layout that we have today.
Looks like we're still trying to get the plan of the monitor now showing the green light. That could be progress. Let it project around. Why don't we buy some time here? Has anything changed since the last time that this concept was before us?
This is the first time that we presented it.
You had it on your agenda, but they asked to be continued, so you didn't actually discuss.
Okay. I remember looking at the plans.
Oh,
That's-
okay. It was,
a
it
flash drive.
had a pretty
Okay.
lengthy agenda, so we
Yeah.
just continued.
I'll certainly open it up to the board to see if there are any immediate comments or questions on the concept plan as presented. Janice?
What will the height,
Yes.
what will the height of the building be?
We'll get right back to, we do have the owner here, I don't know the answer to that question.
I have a question. It's small in the grand scheme of things, but I was just curious from the plan. So is the meadow in between the building in the front and the material bins in the back, is that remaining or is that getting gravelled over as well?
Our design proposes that that would remain.
And the building height that we propose is approximately 33 feet.
33 feet. Okay. Ashley, Ed, anything on the concept plan?
I don't see, at least on the site plan that I'm looking at, a parking calculation. I know you show some spaces. Did you provide a park? I just want to confirm that you're consistent with the parking requirements for the use, but I need to see an actual calculation on the plan, at least.
I don't see parking factors down there.
So that's just something that we would be looking for next time around, just show us that you're consistent with the parking requirements. Is the site intended, who's using the site? Like as proposed for this facility? How is the site being used?
So the site is being used for construction offices, construction office space, and essentially, a portion of it would be the shop setup. So, if you have your electrical supplies, for instance, or plumbing supplies. So they kind of mix of the two. So a plumber could have, if you have plumbing supplies, you could put them in there.
Is it like leased space where someone,
That's not confirmed yet. It might be the owner occupying the property. The building would be similar to what the applicant has on Fish Road.
oh, okay. Okay. And the, I guess they're like the storage bins in the back,
So those,
that's material storage.
yeah, so that's existing. That was permitted back in 22.
And is that used by the individual owner of the I guess what I'm trying to get at is this something that like there's gonna be public access? Like is somebody coming in here and buying gravel and like bringing in their truck? Or is this just particularly for the applicant's use for his business?
So the storage space back there, the construction yard,
Yeah.
that the applicant's been using that construction yard for their business.
So not for public sale, though?
Not to my knowledge, I'd have to confirm, I don't know who's.
And the building space is intended to be used by the owner for their current business.
It could be that, there could possibly be leased space to, a plumber, for example. But that's not determined at this time.
Okay, I'm just trying to get an understanding from the use perspective, because there's a big difference between the applicant using it for their specific business and storage and occasionally coming to the site, there's a different intensity of use there than there is if these are kind of like rented bays where somebody is leasing the space and it's like a plumbing contractor and you've got, 6 bays and so you've got 6 different contractors in there. Are they seeing, is the general public coming and meeting with I'm just trying to get an understanding of the overall use of the property to make sure that we have adequate access, adequate parking and those, but without knowing those things, it's hard to do that.
Understood. I can get further information. Yeah, right. Thank you.
You don't get me else.
Mr. Akers, on our purpose statement, it says tradesman center and construction office. I mean, as you said, you don't know too much now, but it sounds as though it's actually just said it may be leased out to other businesses.
I can get that.
You could elaborate on that later on.
Understood.
Any other comments or questions from the board or staff here? Does the applicant have any questions for the board or seeking any particular other input at this time on the concept?
Not this time.
So the materials in the back, what are we talking, like crushed stone, sand, mulch,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff? Okay.
That's what you know.
Yeah, so I'll echo Ashley's comments, like it'll be really important to get clear on the use so that we can provide the proper guidance. Apologies to everyone in the audience that we are unable to put that up on screen. But if if there's no other comments or questions from the board, thank you. Oh,
One more thought. I know we're in an industrial zone, so I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea that we're gonna be overly concerned, but I think it would be good to understand essentially the building. It's like, how is this building functioning? And what is it intended to be built out of? I'm assuming it's probably a metal structure. But that kind of information about like the height, you know, the whether it's being divided into bays and being leased, overall the materials that are being used would be helpful to understand.
On that note, if it is going to be separated, you'll have, as you know, you'll have to do a different fire issues, you'll have different bathrooms and all this kind of stuff for each one of these things, so that's going to be on the little too. So it's probably a really important place to find out if they're going to be individualized leased units as opposed to one open building behind all those doors.
And another concern is the traffic coming down Eagle Grove Road. Eagle Grove is a habit called Winding Road, and it's kind of animals following.
yeah, and there will obviously be more details that we get into as this progresses into the next phase here. Last call, anything? Okay, thank you.
Right? Thank you.
All right, it sounded like it worked. Over here, but
Turns off randomly?
Yeah. It would test. Gotta speak up.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to agenda item number 2. This is Starlex Enterprises LLC. Care of Westall Dean, 307 Highland Road, Tiverton, and Highland Builders Inc. This is a request for a major modification of the recorded final plan decision and site plan, which have been granted pursuant to zoning ordinance Article 20, Development Plan Review, Site Plan and Design Review, request for modification pursuant to Tiverton Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, Article 9. So this is a discussion and vote on a possible modification to the final plan. Just to put it in context, this is about the property at 785 Main Road here in Tiverton, plat 117, lot 22. It's on the west side of Main Road. It's a neighborhood business zoning district. We'll attempt to have you use the mic, and hopefully it works. If the green light goes on.
Yeah, it's on.
Oh, and we can hear you. If you could,
Don't move
So
it.
if you press it again, it mutes it. You see?
I'm not going to use it.
okay. If you could just start by introducing yourself.
My name is Mallory Dempty. I'm representing Westall and Michelle Clean. I was the architect for the project, and I also work for Highland Builders, who's renting out the property. I'm going to assume nobody's connecting to that.
I don't think it's working,
It's
right?
not at the moment.
I was going to pull up the site plan, but we'll just talk through what we're here for. So we came in front of the planning board, I think probably a year and a half ago now, and we went through planning and zoning. The original plan showed that we were connected to town water. And when we switched to well water, we didn't realize this was a plan modification that needed to come back in front of planning. And the reason we did this was because we couldn't get a timeline from the water department as to when we'd be able to connect to town water. I think they were going through there were some discussions with the state of Rhode Island and Tiverton about some bills that they were receiving for other towns that they didn't want that they weren't responsible for. So we were kind of caught in the middle of this. So they couldn't give us a time when we'd be able to connect. So to avoid delays, we switched to a well, and it wasn't about like saving money. But we're here today because the well during construction was hit twice. And that was when we didn't have like any formal entrance or exit into the site. And the fire marshal was, the fire marshal was concerned that this would be a problem, like it would be a permanent problem. So where it's placed now, is placed, is in a plan. It's placed in a planting bed, in an area that was always a planting bed. So after talking with Captain Murphy, we had discussed some options, one of which was a bollard or potentially, like if we wanted to do what we thought was more aesthetically pleasing, something like a lamp post there to make it more visible. We unfortunately can't cut it down because it is potable water. So those are the options that we're presenting to talk about today, and we're open to other suggestions. I'm so sorry.
So it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Let's make it. Sorry. Yeah, can we? Cool.
I think that concluded like the explanation of what was happening in my right here. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we'll recap. So the well is in place. The well has been hit multiple times during construction. Construction is now complete. You guys are fully operational. Are you?
No,
fully
we don't
operational?
have a CO.
Okay. So the memo from the fire marshal was part of our packet, and so to be clear, we need to have some of the options that you just discussed in terms of being able to create a better, more visual solution there. Has that been discussed with the fire marshal?
Yes, that was discussed after like we received this letter. And so like this is part of our proposed solution was use of a bollard, and he was fine with that. But if we want to make it more aesthetically pleasing for the town, we can make that into like a lamp post or something that's just sturdy and tall, taller than the wellhead, which is like a foot or so, or 8 inches.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for myself, and I want to make sure that we get some guidance here on the potential modifications of the final plan and what we need to do there. But I think given the importance of the neighborhood district, we want a solution in place that's visually appealing, that blends with the aesthetic that property has developed into, while also ensuring the safety of that, so nothing happens. So, I mean, lamppost is fine by me as long as it doesn't look out of place and it's, again, the aesthetic matches.
Sure.
Keep going.
If the board approves of this stuff, and I would suggest that we have a final plan amendment and not a plan like this. I mean, in a person's already fine. But to me, this is not a very good plan. I mean, it looks very epic.
The plan that I submitted was intended to show where the well is.
Okay.
So that you can see that it is in a planting bed. I wish I had a screen so that like, that was part of like pointing it out, and where we like proposed a lamp post. So that was the intent of that plan.
And just for clarification for the record, Was it the North Tiverton Water District?
Yes.
Okay, you realize it doesn't pay this water, we have public water.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is before you as a major modification to the final plan. The way that we would handle that, it's a public hearing, that's the way it's required to be done. The applicant, if approved, the applicant would have to file and record an updated final plan. We will record an amended final decision that recognizes that the applicant got the final plan modified, that the essentially the utility for water service was changed from public service to a private well, and the site plan would have to show the well location, and we would ask that, you know, notes or some kind of way of marking the plan to say whatever the agreed upon deterrent from it getting hit again is shown on the plans. We'll memorialize that in the decision. That'll get recorded, and then the applicant's existing conditions on the ground will match the final plan approval. From what I can tell on the site plans, the well location is sort of near the road in a planting area on the edge of the property where I think something like a decorative lamppost would not look inappropriate or strange. It's not gonna be like stuck in the middle of the front yard or anything. It's like off to the side and sort of near the street. So I think if the board agrees, I think that's probably the most aesthetically pleasing and reasonable approach to making sure that it doesn't get hit again.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Is this property a bit of an anomaly now, that it's not hooked into town water through North Tiverton and has its own well?
I don't know.
Should we?
So it originally shared the same water line coming across the main road as the, I don't know the number, the property next to us, which is like the abandoned garage. And 785 got cut off without our knowledge back in, I think, 2008 or so. So that water line that comes across now only services that garage.
Okay.
So it was originally T, but no longer.
Yeah, I mean, the whole situation just seems concerning to me, and certainly not your fault. We don't have anyone here from North Tiverton to weigh in, but I find it odd. Okay, so that will be the plan moving forward. This is a public hearing, so I want to make sure that we open this up for any public comment. So we will formally open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public with comments or questions? Anyone from the public? Sure. We're going to have to share microphones.
My name is James Riley. I live at 14 Terrace, directly behind their property. I have no problem with that person talking about it all. I think it worked great. You know, wonderful job with that property already from what it was. Trust me, I guess those 3 properties were all one at one time. What my house is, under 2 front lots. The one next door is horrible. But these guys have done a great job. I don't see a problem with that at all.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Any other further public comment? Final call, any public comment? Okay, that concludes, and we will close the public hearing.
I think motion. Is that right?
Excuse me. I would suggest as your motion the following. Scarlett's Enterprises LLC requests that pursuant to the Tiverton Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, Section 23-50, that the final plan decision and site plan be modified after hearing thereon and for good cause shown I move that the Scarlett's Enterprises LLC final plan decision and site plan be modified to allow a private well instead of connection to the public water system on the condition that the well is properly guarded from vehicles running over it, and that such guarding is aesthetically pleasing and fits the character of the community, for example, with a bollard or a lamppost. In addition, the applicant shall submit a new final site plan that includes a note memorializing the requirement for the above guarding. As good cause, the applicant has demonstrated that moving to a private well was necessitated by the fact that a decision from the North Tiverton Water Department was unduly delayed.
Would anyone like to make the motion that Todd?
Can I just ask a question? They're not coming back, do they?
Okay.
Will she need to come back in order to wrap up this?
No.
Oh, no, okay. That was it. No.
Taking more time to pass the microphone.
Okay, would anyone like to make the motion that Todd just articulated? We have a motion from Adam. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Alan. Any final conversation from the board? Okay. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 3. This is BCP Properties LLC. This is major land development, master plan review, comprehensive permit application, amendments to condition of recorded master plan decision. I'm not going to read through all of this.
Mr. Chair, I would actually suggest you guys combine numbers 3 and 4.
Okay.
Number 3 being the modification to the master plan decision, and number 4 being the checklist waiver request. We can have one discussion, and I have 2 potential motions for you.
Okay, so we're going to combine agenda items 3 and 4. Do you want to open it up to council?
Good evening, members of the board.
Working now.
It's working now. Okay. Sorry about that. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John Mancini, I'm an attorney with offices in Providence, Rhode Island, and I represent the applicant before you this evening, BCP Properties LLC. It's good to be back. If you recall, last time we were here, we had several meetings in regards to our proposal for a comprehensive permit and the master plan review of the same. And after several hearings and a multitude of discussions, the board granted master plan approval. And as you may recall, that master plan approval was subject to several conditions. Most important of which, and probably a center of the discussion throughout the master plan approval, was the issue concerning water. And one of the conditions that was placed on the master plan approval was an obligation of the applicant to ensure that there was adequate water to service this property. And the way to do that, the way to ensure that we were following protocol, is to have an hydraulic model be constructed and do so in conjunction with Stonebridge Water, which was the entity that was going to provide water to this development. Since that time, we've proceeded to do exactly that. And we are now prepared for preliminary plan submission. We've done a good amount of the engineering necessary to do that, and I have with me Molly Titus from Degree Engineering to talk a little bit about that, and I also have with me Robert Ferreri from who's our water consultant, to also talk about the hydraulic model. The condition that was placed on master plan approval required that the hydraulic model be prepared prior to preliminary plan submission. And essentially what we're asking of the board this evening is not to withdraw that condition. We are still very, very much aware of the need to have water, and we very much appreciate the fact that this board has an obligation to ensure that water is adequately supplied to this project without any hindrance to any of the other projects within the Stonebridge Water Service and the Stonebridge Fire District. What we're asking is solely that the obligation of the hydraulic model to be completed prior to preliminary plan submission be lifted so that we can proceed with preliminary plan submission, we can receive our certificate of completeness, and essentially punch our ticket to the game, if you will. We are still obligated and will remain obligated to produce the hydraulic model, and that we only ask that the condition be changed so that it states that no decision on preliminary plan or preliminary plan approval will be given without the hydraulic model. And the reason for that is, again, we want to start the process. And a little more information with regards to where we are with the hydraulic model. We've been working with PAR Engineering. PAR Engineering, I'm not sure if the board's aware, but PAR Engineering has completed the Stonebridge hydraulic model. And we have also engaged PAR Engineering to work on preparing the hydraulic model for BCP properties so that they can incorporate our hydraulic model into the Stonebridge Water District model. Part of the discussion that we had, if the board recalls, at the master plan was that we didn't want to have inconsistent hydraulic models. We didn't want to prepare essentially one model that we would have but not be able to communicate with Stonebridge or Stonebridge's engineering and not be able to share information to ensure that our hydraulic model is consistent with theirs, that they kind of work in harmony. So we understanding that, we proceeded forward. The concern we had during master plan was whether or not we were going to end up in a situation where we would have the cart but not the horse, or the cart before the horse. Fortunately, it's worked well. We kind of had both hand in hand. Stonebridge has finished their hydraulic model. We now can dovetail on that, incorporate ours into that hydraulic model. We believe it's probably going to be maybe 30 days to 45 days, but no reason to withhold our opportunity to go forward before this board on the multitude of other issues that the board's going to want to evaluate as part of our comprehensive permit. So in sum, the request that we're making of the board is solely to lift the requirement that the hydraulic model be presented to you prior to preliminary plan submission, that rather the hydraulic model be presented to you prior to any decision regarding the preliminary plan decision. The obligation of producing the model is still in play, and we're still appreciate that, respect that, and are willing to accommodate that. And we feel very confident at this point that we're going to be successful in doing that, given the information that we have today. So with that, if you have no other questions, I think I'll like to turn it to this Bob. I'm going to have our water consultant kind of give you an update on that, and then you guys can pepper him with questions as you normally would. Good evening.
My name is Robert Ferrari, President of Northeast Water Solutions, and I'm the consulting engineer for the Stonebridge Water District. Just for a point of clarification, I am not a consultant to the applicant here. I'm here representing Stonebridge Fire District. Okay. I'll try to be as concise as possible here. We were originally approached about 2 years ago by the applicant. We did some initial evaluation and advised that there was probably going to be a need, at least for hydrant testing, to assess capacity to meet their requirements. About a year ago, literally 1 year ago today, I actually issued a memorandum. A hydrant test program had been conducted by the applicant's engineer, the pre-engineering with the Stonebridge Fire District folks and a member of my team. We determined at a point in proximity to the development site that the existing system had a yield of about 750 gallons per minute, a maximum yield. We, at that point, made the recommendation that they perform a hydraulic model, because while that was probably adequate to meet their day-to-day domestic and sanitary water requirements, there was the concerns over the fire flow requirements for the development. At that time, Stonebridge had let's just say, an archaic hydraulic model. It was more than 20 years old. It actually hadn't been used in a long time. Needed a lot of updating. Clark Corporation was retained last June. They started on a new hydraulic model for the system. Just for point of interest, they also prepared a hydraulic model for the North Tiverton Fire District, so we felt we had good continuity there, and there would be compatibility with both the North Tiverton and the Stonebridge models, which is, I think, desirable for the town. That model, they had it completed to the point of needing to do calibration. Over the last month, Stonebridge has been performing hydrant tests for the purpose of providing data for what we call calibration of the hydraulic model. That's been completed. The last thing on my desk is a sanity check on 2 of the hydrant locations just to verify confirmed location of the model. So the model's complete. As recently as yesterday, there was communications between myself, Park Corporation, and the applicant as far as moving forward on the model specific to the projected demands, both domestic and sanitary, as well as fire flow for the project site. Park Corporation indicated they felt they could probably have their work done doing the specific modeling of this applicant's demand, probably within 30 days, in worst case 45 days, as just presented by council. That's where it stands right now. Our expectation, Stonebridge has the capacity, the overall water supply capacity to theoretically meet the demands, both in immediate yield as well as in the ability to have sufficient storage fire flow. However, our expectation is that the model will confirm that a pump station will be required to be implemented to meet the fire flow requirements of the site, and this is not an unusual circumstance for a lot of rural systems. So that's the summation there. They produced a current up to this morning. And if you have any questions, if anyone has a question or comment, I'll certainly do my best to respond to it.
I have a couple of, thank you for that, that's extremely helpful. Just a programming note, I think it would be good for the final hydraulic model from Stonebridge and North Tiverton to be presented to the board. Or at a minimum delivered, but we should find some time on an agenda when appropriate to have the right representative or representatives give a debrief to us so that we're informed just at a macro level.
Yeah, I'm thinking ahead to the, I'm just thinking ahead to the project that we have that's kind of waiting on these models, because of the, once Weston and Sampson is in receipt of both of those, then we can finish the project, and there'll be a report and a presentation that would be part of that. So, but that's a little longer term, but the idea being that those 2 models will get brought together, and there'll be an overall analysis and report with that, combining of the models. But again, that might be, once we get them, we can get moving on it, but maybe a little longer term than you're thinking.
I think you would like an interim report from the 2 water authorities. How about that?
Yeah.
So I will have Ed reach out to each water authority, inviting them to the November meeting. Yeah.
Just, it's so important, and I know people have been working on it, and we've been getting passive updates on it. I think it would be good to get an interim update, and then the full report from Weston and Sampson makes sense. As it relates to this project, will the project hydraulic study comment upon the any potential impact to the surrounding neighborhood as far as water flow as a result of the project?
Actually, that is one of the specific considerations and needs to be evaluated, as a matter of fact, because obviously, it's one thing to say we can provide them up to a certain point of use, but what happens to the rest of them?
Exactly. So now we have folks in the audience who are very.
That's a major concern.
Okay.
We have to maintain minimum pressure and flow capacity in the balance. As a matter of fact, the context of the model is that the intent is to model meeting the maximum demand, which is fire flow, at concurrent with maximum demand, maximum day demand occurring in the stormwater system. Okay, which, by the way, would also include pumping water to North Tiverton, Fire District, to the Cary Lake Pump Station. As a matter of fact. So that's a critical aspect of the evaluation.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this particular aspect?
Yeah. If they put a pump in to increase their pressure, does that, how are you gonna still, I don't understand how you're still gonna have the same volume. Didn't like it.
Dick, we're going to get into those, sorry. We'll probably get into those details once we get the study. We'll just make sure, let's just move.
We need to stick to the agenda.
Yes, yeah.
Not necessarily the merits, but I understand your point.
So, thank you. Bob, I apologize. I know the applicant has been working so closely with you so long that we thought we usurped you as our consultant. But that was my bad, and I appreciate it. But the point is we you've amplified the concern, we get it, and I think we're in the process of working to respond to that, and we're going to get to Mr. Taylor's question when we're here on the merits of it. And really the goal of tonight is to ask you to allow us to go forward so that we can present to you the overall engineering and then specifically discuss in particular the hydraulic model that is going to be prepared by PAR. And the good thing about what we're doing here is that we've gone with one consultant, so the continuity, as you just heard, is important. Now you can have a sense of what North Tiverton is doing, what Stonebridge is doing, and how it is going to be implicated by us. But again, as we've requested, what is before you is our request to simply allow us to lift that condition about presenting the model to you prior to preliminary development.
Is there anything else you would like to present before we open the public hearing?
No. Well, I think there is. First of all, let me directly ask you, what is the good cause to modify the plan? Is it reliance on the third party?
Yeah, so the good cause is similar to essentially what you did on the last final plan, and that is the delay from the third party that was out of our control. And, PAR has worked expeditiously in getting that hydraulic model completed. As you heard, they've been working on it for a year. There was some additional information that they needed to get. We didn't know when they were going to get that, and if they were going to get it either another month from now, but fortunately it wrapped up within the last couple of days, in fact, yesterday. And so when we submitted that, we were still kind of uncertain as to what exactly that time frame was going to be. It could have been 90 days, it could be 30 days, we didn't know. We have a better picture of that now, which is good. It's much better than we anticipated, so that really essentially underscores the need for why we made that petition with this request when we did almost 2 months ago.
All right, so the other part of the agenda is checklist waivers. Do you want to talk about those now?
Yeah, if we can do that, and we can open up to public on everything, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, I will hear you. We're going to combine. It's fine.
Yeah,
You don't have
I don't have an objection to that. We can combine the
Is that
public.
one more question? So, what is your relationship with the developer?
I never know.
I thought
My relationship with the developer is I am the engineer for the Stonebridge Water District. So the developer has come to Stonebridge and said, can you provide water to meet the needs of this proposed development? Okay, I am serving as the engineer for Stonebridge Water District. I did sufficient work to evaluate at the time what we believe their needs are going to be, and then made specific recommendations to the directors as far as they had to run a hydro test, initially a hydro test as a preliminary indication, and based upon that, we wanted the hydraulic model run for the proposed development to provide a further assessment of the potential of the could the system provide the water needed for, as I said, normal domestic sanitary requirements and fire flow, and assess what the impacts would be on the balance of the system. So I am not a consultant to the developer or the applicant in this case. I am the engineer for Sunbridge Fire District.
Thank you, I think that was my question.
Mr. Chairman.
And Adam, yeah, the board had directed the applicant to work with Stonebridge and Tiverton to get those hydraulic models.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Their relationship just confused me a little bit, so just wanted to, I originally thought that he was working for the developer and the town simultaneously.
Okay, do we want to move to incorporate the commentary about the checklist here? So, is there anything, Mr. Manson, you want to say on that?
No, I am, I'd like to go through the second portion, which is the second half of our request, and that is a request for a waiver of specific checklist items. And again, the request here is, so that we're clear, we're not asking that these items be completely waived, meaning that the applicant does not have to deliver them, or that the applicant does not have to at some point process them. Rather, they are checklist items that are required prior to preliminary plan submission, and we're asking that they just be incorporated as part of the preliminary plan process, and they be submitted to the board prior to preliminary plan decision or approval. Number one is written comments from the ad hoc technical review committee. We can't do that at this point in this stage, so we're just asking that that be done during the process. And many of the other waivers, 35 and 36, they're essentially requesting that the applicant produce a DM permit or produce a permit from a state agency. Normally, under preliminary plan checklist, those are appropriate for a major land development project, but because we're in a comprehensive permit, because we've submitted a comprehensive permit, state statute allows us to submit those permits either prior to final plan or even at the issuance of the building permit. So 35 and 36 are essentially just a feasibility issue. They're not required at this point, and for that reason, we haven't gone far enough to obtain them. But we will produce them. Clearly, that's an obligation, and we're not asking to be absolved of that. 39, 40, 41, 44, they correspond, yes, they correspond to there. But those are also checklist items that say prior to preliminary plan. Again, we're just asking that that be essentially made part of the process and issued prior to a decision. 45 deals with the physical alteration permit from RIDOT. Again, we're not asking to be absolved from that. We will produce that, just simply not at this stage by state statute. And the public works designee, again, that says prior to preliminary plan. We're just, again, asking that be made part of the process. And the last one that we're asking for is just simply we need more time. Our landscaping plan, which addresses screening and the like, is prepared. It just has not been stamped by the landscape architect yet. And so we want to just present that when it's ready to be, when it's going to be stamped, and we expect that to be during the process to be relatively short. It's prepared, it's just not ready to be stamped yet at this point. And so for that reason, we're just asking we be essentially committed to start the clock, allow us to go through the process, and commence the dialogue about this project.
Thank you. And so we're all clear, Mr. Mancini, it's correct. Checklist items 35, 36, and 45, the DEM permits and the physical alteration permit are now required at final plan by statute. They specifically removed it from preliminary plan to final plan. We have no choice in that. He's also correct about items 39, 40, 44, and 47. Those all preface your checklist by saying prior to preliminary plan approval has been the planning department's practice to not require those. for checklist determination for completeness purposes. Taylor, it's to you.
Any other immediate question or comment before we open the public meeting?
Is that good? So,
So you have a memo on this from Sue Mara, and I'm just gonna quickly run down that memo and ask if you have any questions. The memo is from the original request, and so it does make a comment in here about the requirement to have a public hearing in order to modify the decision. That's now been done, that's where we are right now. But the recommendation, I would say, generally stands, except for number 4. I can tell you from personal experience, those checklist items that say prior to preliminary plan approval have the potential to cause a problem. They're not my favorite checklist items, because once the application is certified complete, without those items, your clock to make a decision starts. And then potentially, we have like chasing down information that the checklist says is required. And I'm not suggesting this applicant is gonna do this, I'm just speaking in general terms about the way these checklist items typically work. Because the applicant is essentially requesting other items to be handled similarly. And so I'm just expressing a general concern that when we have checklist items that are required for you to make a decision, but not required on the certification side, the time clock is always, in my mind, is always of concern, because I don't want to run through a decision time clock while you're asking for information, and I also don't want to find us in a position where the clock is ticking and you're not receiving the information with enough time for you to adequately review it and then make a decision. And that puts the board in the position of potentially having to ask for an extension of the time clock. So Sue's recommendation in here is that if you grant those items as prior to, essentially tagging on prior to preliminary plan approval to the checklist items that are enumerated here, that the actual time clock is not gonna start until the applicant has provided you with those items, so that you have the full, because what you're doing is giving up some of your time clock to review those items and to start to review other items where you may not get your full time clock to see those particular items. One of those being the hydraulic information, which we know is incredibly important to everybody. So that's Sue's recommendation, and I just wanted to give you that overview and tell you that I can answer questions if you have any.
That makes sense. But if I may, Mr. Chair, I understand that point and completely appreciate it. My position is and has been with respect to the time clock is that that's a clock that's controlled by the board. You control that, control the information, and my obligation is to give you the information. You can deny us and hang. And if you deny us because we haven't given you the decision, if you deny us because you haven't given us the information, that's, at the end of the day, that's your discretion. You can't make you can't make a decision without referring to substantial evidence. And if the record is not complete, then the applicant hasn't performed its duty. So I don't think that in this case specifically that we're going to run into an issue. Second, first of all, we understand it's a large project. It's going to be a multitude of information. It's going to continue to flow back and forth as it did in the master plan. And my job is to ensure that the information gets to you timely, gets to you completely, and it enables you to make your decision. And that's the record. So with that, we are not concerned about the clock. If you need more time, we'll give you more time. We're going to compile the information. I think we've acted in good faith throughout this process, as you've seen from the very beginning. We're not looking to hide the ball. We're not looking to play against you. We want to play with you, and we want to do it in a transparent, in good faith as we have from the beginning. So we just want to keep that plant process going in an expeditious manner.
Appreciate that. I think if it's the cleanest way to enable us to set the dialogue through to start, when we actually get the materials, that seems the most straightforward way to manage this. So, is there anything else before we open up the public hearing? Okay, we're going to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Yeah, and so, yes, so we're going to keep the scope really tight here. It's not broad-based about the project. It has to be about the particulars of this request for the waivers that we're talking about. So just, if we go outside of that,
Just give me a signal.
we'll throw this in.
I just feel like a lot of
Could you just start with your name and address, please?
Meredith Nucci, 333 East Road, Tiverton, and I just feel like a lot of our rights as a community and a town have been stripped. And as lovely as the disposition and demeanor of this particular group of applicants is, and maybe I feel like we need to not relinquish any control or grant any favors that might have seen or unforeseen consequences. Thank you. And all of this is going to happen, and it's going to cost us money while somebody else makes a profit. And I'm getting off topic, but I do think that we need to really constrain and slow it down as much as possible.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Sandra Van Hoff, 54 Fairwood Drive. Mr. Romano just said that this project, one of your requests was that they go to both Stonebridge and North Tiverton hydraulic to get hydraulic report. And we only had Stonebridge tonight. I'm just wondering why North Tiverton hasn't presented anything if...
Because the study is, so just hang off. We are going, and keep me honest, we are going to be getting a full report in debrief from Weston and Sampson, who is Ashley Sweet, our interim, right? So they are going to be combining the studies from Stonebridge and North Tiverton into a comprehensive, and this board and the public will get a full walkthrough of that.
So...
Right? But that is part and parcel to the project-specific hydraulic study, which is being informed by the aforementioned town study by Stonebridge and North Tiverton.
Right, but I thought I just heard Mr. Romano say tonight.
Ms. Van Hoff, I'll cut right to it. The problem is Stonebridge has an archaic hydraulic model.
I
So,
know
no,
that.
you don't understand. Listen for a minute, please. So, because they are so far behind, they're the ones that are delaying the project and the combining of the two water models. Thus, the request for the extension regarding the hydraulic model. That's all. It's not that North Tiverton doesn't have to present something. They do. The condition specifically states hydraulic model will be developed specifically for this project in conjunction with a hydraulic model of the entire Stonebridge Water District and North Tiverton Water District. There's nothing being hidden
No,
from
I'm
you.
not saying...
The only
but I'm
delay is
just
because,
wondering-
they had Stonebridge's representative here to explain what the delay was in producing the hydraulic model.
Okay. I just was wondering why both of them were not here. That's all. I'm done.
There's two things going on, that's why. There's two different things happening. There's an applicant before the board that is requesting to tie into Stonebridge. That request is there's other things that have generated the necessity, but that particular request has generated the necessity for Stonebridge to develop a hydraulic model in a computerized system instead of the old way of doing things. North Tiverton has a hydraulic model. North Tiverton District is not involved in this project. Stonebridge is involved in this project. North Tiverton is at play in discussions about this project because the hydraulic model that is getting created as a result of this project, partially as a result of this project, will be used in conjunction with North Tiverton's existing hydraulic model to essentially take the two models, bring them together, and create an entire hydraulic model for the whole system, because the two systems are somewhat interconnected somewhere, and I'm not an engineer, so I'm not gonna go into that. But the reason that North Tiverton is not here is because they're not party to this application. They don't owe the board anything, they don't owe the applicant anything. We're gonna use the results of the hydraulic model created partially because of this project to then bring that into the North Tiverton model. So that's why North Tiverton is not here. They're not part of this application. That is a separate project that has been ongoing for too long.
Does that help?
No, but that's fine. I know all that was taking place. The only reason I brought something up, don't hang your head,
Just, let's get the question out and we'll
was
answer it.
that Mr.
I'm
Romano,
listening to you, Mr.
that Mr.
Please.
Romano said tonight that Vital was asked to go to both Stonebridge and North Tiverton. So I am just asking why both of them weren't here. I understand you're doing a town hydraulic study, I understand all that. But by Mr. Romano's comment tonight, it made me wonder why both water were not here. That's all.
Okay.
I know what the town is doing.
Okay. Good. And Ashley provided the explanation.
I already knew what that was all about.
So the delay is because Stonebridge had to come to modern times with
Correct.
this project. That is the delay. That's why their representative is here to explain why the delay.
I wasn't asking about
But that's
the
why
delay.
North Tiverton does not need to be here.
Mr. Romano,
So-
I'm not getting into it back and forth.
I think we've,
say they shouldn't speak to a citizen like that.
sorry, we have to use the microphone. There's a lot of background noise. It's difficult to hear. Ms. Garuda, would you like to say something?
No, it would just be nice as the chair that the contingency here be spoken to with respect. That's all.
That is noted. Thank you. Other public comment?
Thank you.
Carol Herman, I live on Main Road and directly abut the parcel on which they want to put the 256 units. We have water issues in Tiverton, as you well know. It's a critical issue facing us as these seeming thousands of units are being proposed. We now hear that hydraulic study should be done in 30 days. Let's wait. Let's not waive the requirement. It's not the endless months that they were anticipating. Let's stick to your original requirements.
Appreciate that. To be clear, though, we're not waiving the requirement. We are.
I understand what you're saying, that they don't have to have it for the preliminary plan to be certified complete.
So there is a difference between the ability to have it to certify the plan complete and this board having it in order to properly deliberate on it, the preliminary plan application. The latter is not being skipped in any way, shape, or form. We will have that. It's just in order to keep the process moving, we are talking about waiving certain things from the certification of completeness for the preliminary plan application. We're not talking about not getting these.
I understand that, but the applicant wants it so that the time clock is triggered. I'm saying don't start the time clock without the water study.
And that's actually what we did say. We are going to take a position as a board to not start the 90-day time clock until the board receives all of these items, not when it is certified complete. There is a difference and a distinction, and taking that route allows us the full 90 days in which to do the proper deliberation and discussion so that we have the ample enough time to go through everything. We're not taking any shortcuts here.
So then what is the advantage to anyone for not requiring it for certification of the preliminary plan? What is going to change?
I mean, I think that the applicant would tell you why they're asking for it, but my assessment is that it allows the conversation to start. They're allowed to get in front of the board, begin deliberating, begin presenting their evidence, begin answering questions while they are waiting, essentially, for these other things to get resolved. Once they're resolved, they would bring those forward to you. Again, my concern is we're waiting for something that neither the board nor the applicant has any control over, that concerns me in and of itself, because I was supposed to get a copy of the hydraulic model from Stonebridge in mid-September, and I don't have anything. So them saying 30 days, we hope so, but we don't know, and we have no control over that. Again, I'm not saying this applicant is gonna do anything. I am looking out for the board's best interest, Sue is looking out for the board's best interest, and our position essentially is it's easier to set the expectation now for you to say, we don't start the time clock until all of these items that we've agreed to hold in abeyance for now are provided to us. That is a hard deadline. We have time clock problems regularly, and I'm not saying here, I'm saying this happens everywhere, where when something is certified incomplete or something is, prior to a preliminary plan approval, it can become a chasing exercise, and that we don't have the staff to chase. We're like 1 1/6 of a person in the office. So I think it's cleaner this way. I think it sets the expectation ahead of time. We all know when the clock will start, and that will be hopefully when everything is handed in together, not one at a time, because we have that question, that comes up all the time too. I just think it's cleaner that way. That's Sue's recommendation.
Is there any other public comment? Gentleman in the back, and then. Okay.
Hi, good evening. Jason Osborne, 1168 Main Road. A couple comments. It's good to see Attorney Mancini and the chairman bring out, this is a really big issue with this application. And not only tonight, but also in earlier meetings, we heard talk from the neighbors about water supply issues. And we also heard from the Stonebridge engineer regarding the preliminary, which sounded like it was favorable in supplying this applicant with water. So let's see, hearing that gives, I think, at least me, maybe others, some consternation where there's supply issues with a few of the homes in the neighborhood. And now we're adding 256 residences to that area, and you're indicating that you can meet that demand. So that seems inconsistent, and I would suggest that maybe you meet with those people to see what their supply issue is. It could be a restriction in water flow or something like that. That would be a concern.
Duly noted, and we're not going to debate the merits of the hydraulic study just yet, but I just want to make sure that I asked that question specifically when the engineer gave his testimony, that the report that is forthcoming will also provide adequate commentary about flow to the surrounding areas to address the neighborhood's concerns.
Yes, thank you. I would also say that whatever the model is should be validated. through some kind of test cases. And also, I believe the town is going to have a separate independent entity take a look at this. I believe that's correct.
So I want to be clear here, we're not debating the water study, and I need to control the conversation to focus on the agenda item at hand, which is tied to the request for waivers. Because there's going to be an incredible amount of time in which to kick the proverbial tires on the forthcoming study.
Okay, got it. I'll just say one slightly out-of-bounds question. Hopefully, the engineers, Decreed Engineering, has the correct boundaries for the applicant. Have we corrected that? And that was book 312, page 63, exhibit B.
I know there was a concern raised by you
Thank you.
during the master plan. That will come across, and we will have that nailed down during preliminary. Sir?
Hello, my name is Rob Shaw, I live on Captain Circle. I think this is a huge, huge development. It has the ability to completely change a community, an awesome town. I don't think something like this should be pushed. I don't think the developer should be given waivers for something of this magnitude.
So, sir?
I know, okay, whatever, I'm just stating my opinion, and you're gonna make it easier for him to push this all through.
I'm not going to make it easier because we are not skipping over anything. We are granting waivers for the matter of the preliminary plan application checklist to be certified. Just the checklist. This board will get all of the materials as part of the full and unfettered deliberation. There is nothing we can skip. It is an administrative...
What is a waiver exactly? It's easy for this to get pushed forward.
No,
right?
the waiver, so the process, I'm going to attempt. Can you just start by, let's ground everyone in the checklist and the certification of the checklist, because that is a purely administrative function, not having to be okay.
So the subdivision regulations govern applications of land development, and the subdivision regulations identify that every stage of review has a checklist that goes with that stage of review. That checklist identifies the required information necessary for an application to get in front of the planning board for that specific stage of review. It is an administrative function, so in the planning department, we receive the application, we review the application against that checklist and determine whether or not everything has been sufficiently provided. Under standard circumstances, an application doesn't go on an agenda for the planning board until it has been certified complete. Certifying an application complete, it's a formalized process where it's done in writing, the applicant is notified, that triggers a time clock that the planning board has to make a decision on an application. That time clock is different depending on the type of application and the stage of review that they're currently in. What the applicant is asking to do is to begin their discussion with the planning board in advance of actually being certified complete, minus the items that they've identified that are listed on the agenda. What they are proposing is that when they are in front of the board and that conversation has started and you're deliberating the application and they're presenting the evidence to you, that as the items that they have asked to be waived, which is essentially they're asking for a delay of submission, is probably a better term to describe it. They're not asking for a waiver in the sense that you never have to do this. It is a delay of submission. So during the process of the preliminary plan deliberation, they will provide those items to the board. The board will consider them, review them, use them in their continued deliberation and decision making. What has been recommended to the board by staff in reviewing this to prevent you from using any of your time clock while we wait for those items, that we would trigger the time clock, not at certification of completeness from the traditional standpoint, but from the point in which all of the items that have been delayed for submission are provided to the board, at which point then the time clock would start ticking, which would give you the full 90 days with all of the materials in front of you in order to deliberate, ask your questions, have your expert testimony in front of you, and render a decision. So it is not a waiver in the traditional sense of the word waiver, where I never have to do this. It is a delay of submission instead of before preliminary plan is actually being heard by the board, it will be during preliminary plan. That is the distinct difference.
I think what's missing maybe in some of the conversations is that does not allow shovels in the ground, if you will. All it does is it gives us the right to start the process of talking, which gives you your rights to come up here and fight against it if you want to fight against it. So there's no real change to it. All it does is the waiver allows us to start that process where they can come forward and you can come forward and everybody comes forward without triggering that clock, which gives them rights over you. Actually, it protects your rights. By giving the waivers, doesn't put one shovel in the ground, doesn't allow the project to move forward one more step except for presenting, I think, before us. I think that's what we're trying to say, right? I think that needed to be said.
Let me just make sure no other first time. Any first time public comment?
I just have a question.
That mic's right behind you.
With the waivers granted, does it get certified complete? Or are they just allowed to start the conversations, but it doesn't become certified complete until it is in fact complete? Because does the time clock actually start upon the certification of completion?
What we have recommended to the board is that this application be certified complete, but the time clock does not begin until every submission has been made. It's a win-win.
Any other public comments? Final call. Any other public comment? Okay. That closes the public hearing. Thank you. Any other? Any other board comments, questions? Are we all clear, as Ashley has explained? Okay. Todd, you had a recommended set of motions.
I have two motions for you. The first one,
I don't recall, Bill, what you said for checklist items that we, it's mandated that, we could modify. But there was three, right? There was 25, there's a checklist number 25, 51, and 66, which were just not included.
35, 36, and 45. The ones requiring DSTAM
Right.
or DOT permits.
Right, okay. So, but then we have 25, 51, and 66. Which were, what?
25?
So we have the following items were checked off as being provided in the submitted preliminary plan, but were not located in the application. So it says that they were checked off as provided, but not there.
What are you looking at, Adam?
Yeah, that's 25 is not on the list.
That might
You want to see
be,
what I look at? This is all I have is what's on my phone.
So each of them.
Do what?
I believe you're pulling that.
So I have two is, do you want me to show you what I'm looking at? Is that on
well, it sounded like you were reading a certificate, a
Name.
certificate of completion. completeness.
Certificate of completeness?
So that's old.
Okay. This is from the most recent Google Drive stuff that I got today. Oh, yes, I see it says 1825. I think I'm mistaken. Okay, it says 9/15/25? Yeah. So, can you, do these apply? These three checklist items?
What numbers do they have?
So I have 25, 51, and 66, conditions of master plan, proposed structure, dimensions and area, the structure's covered. And, lighting, location, direction, footpath lighting maybe.
I'll say this. Those are not requested as waivers, those are not advertised as being requested for waivers. We should not be even considering those, that's not going to be a part of any.
Why was it on a Google Drive for this meeting?
It's in the
That's the
certification of
certification of
completeness.
completeness. But if you look at the requested waivers, those
So
are
we're
not
not-
listed.
So, all right, we're not talking about things that were
That's
just
not-
not included in the checklist?
Those are not requested to be waived, which means they have to be provided. They're deficient items until they're provided, unless the
I
plan.
guess, okay, I mean, I don't, do you see where my confusion lies? We have
No.
items
So,
that were
The
not
applicant-
submitted,
the
but
applicant
said
was-
that they were? I'm sorry if
That
I,
happens with basically every application we review, so that's
Okay.
not unusual to me.
okay,
But the issue is that the certificate of completeness was issued with deficiencies.
okay,
The applicant came back and requested that certain items be waived for finding the application complete. Those items are listed as conditions of the master plan approval. The applicant didn't request to waive them, so we're not waiving them, it's not in front of you. You can only consider what they requested.
so
So,
waivers requested, and then number 2 is checklist items marked as complete when not provided. I'm just reading it in order of the
but you're, yeah, so,
So the waivers requested are 27, 28, 31, 35, 36, 39, 40, 41, 44, 45, 47, and 65.
the ones that are listed on the agenda.
Okay.
Those were also found to be deficiencies, and the applicant didn't include those as part of their request. So our assumption is that they're gonna provide those. They're gonna need to provide those in order for us to certify it complete. So they're not asking for waivers from every single thing that was found deficient. They selected which ones they thought were appropriate, they made the request, those were not included. It doesn't mean we're gonna ignore them,
Okay. I get it.
okay?
Did you follow, Mr. Mancini?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Raposo is correct. There were other items that were identified as either incomplete or insufficient. We're not asking for waivers of those items. In fact, we believe we've already submitted them, and they either got lost in the shuffle because it was so hard of submission, or something happened along the lines of the submission. But if they haven't been submitted, they will be submitted. They are complete. The only things we're asking for is that which is before you and that which has been advertised, and that's solely what we're seeking. Again, your planner is absolutely correct. It's not a waiver, it's just a delay of submission. So I think you guys got it. We shot this dead. We shot this horse dead. So we'll leave it.
I have two questions, Mr. Chairman. First one concerns the modifications to the master plan development decision. That would be BCP Properties LLC requests that pursuant to the Tiverton Land Development and Subdivision Regulations, Section 23-50, that the master plan decision recorded in Book 2029, page 260 of the Land Evidence Records be modified. After hearing thereon and for good cause shown, I move that the BCP Properties master plan decision be modified to allow the applicant to submit the materials required by condition 1 of that decision, which generally concerns hydraulic modeling, availability of water for development, and impact of water availability on other water users, after preliminary plan application is deemed complete, but these materials must be presented during public meetings on the preliminary plan application, and the board's time clock within which it is to make its decision on the preliminary plan application is stayed and will not commence to run until these items have been submitted. As for the good cause is that the applicant has demonstrated that it is working towards providing these materials, and these materials are contingent on third parties over which it has no control.
Would anyone like to put forth the motion as read by Todd? Cheryl has put forth the motion. Do we have a second? Janice? Okay. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? It's unanimous.
The second motion concerns checklist waivers. BCP Properties LLC requests that the planning board waive the requirement that several preliminary plan checklist items be submitted for certification of completeness of the preliminary plan application, and instead requests that these items be submitted during the preliminary plan public meetings. The preliminary plan checklist is a part of the Tiverton development and subdivision regulations, and the planning board alone has authority to grant waivers from that checklist. After hearing thereon, and for good cause shown, I move that BCP Properties be permitted to submit the preliminary plan checklist items identified below after the preliminary plan application is deemed complete. But these items must be presented during public meetings on the preliminary plan application, and the board's time clock within which it is to make its decision on the preliminary plan application is stayed and will not commence to run until each of these items have been submitted. The checklist items that shall be submitted during the public meetings are number 27, concerning comments from the Ad Hoc Technical Review Committee; number 28, written comments from adjoining communities; number 31, all waivers granted by the planning board noted on the plan; number 65, proposed screening, landscaping, and maintenance plan. As good cause, the applicant has demonstrated that it is working to provide these materials, and these materials are in part contingent on third parties. Concerning the request to waive checklist items 35, 36, and 45, by state law, these are not required until final plan and are waived from the preliminary plan checklist requirements. Concerning checklist items 39, 40, 44, and 47 are waived solely as it concerns the preliminary plan checklist. These checklist items specifically state that they are to be submitted prior to preliminary plan approval. Similarly, checklist item 41 is also waived for the purpose of preliminary plan checklist pursuant to authority granted the administrative officer. These shall, however, be submitted during the planning board's review of the application.
Would anyone like to put forth the motion as read by Todd? I will put forth the motion as read by Todd. Do we have a second? Alan. Discussion. Are there any, good?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
We can't talk about the other conditions.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We now have a number of concurrent or consecutive, rather, agenda items regarding Street Legal LLC buying through James Long. Not all are public hearings, so we're going to be taking these things separately here. You think? Yep. You want? Okay. So we're going to combine agenda items 5, agenda item 6. That's it. Just 5 and 6 for now. So there is a lot to get through here, so, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
For the record, Daniel Riley, Counsel for Street Legal LLC, Riley Nickel, 50 South Main Street, Providence. I'm joined by Chris Duham, the project engineer. We also have the project owner, Mr. James Long, with us as well, if there are any questions. Although, I think our requests here were procedural in nature tonight. Excuse me. Similar to the previous applicant's request, we are seeking modifications of our master plan submission to the master plan approval for the street legal project, as well as certain waivers of checklist items for the preliminary plan submission for the street legal project. I will say that I do think the vast majority, if not all of these items, have actually been provided by this point. They've been supplemented to the planning staff. However, we don't have certification yet of those items, and I understand they're under review. We weren't expecting that by tonight. So I would suggest that we are requesting the modification of the master plan approval, as well as the waivers, out of an abundance of caution on our part, so we can continue the timeline for the hearing for this project. There are several items on here that we feel were not originally required. We needed to seek clarification from planning staff on those items, which is why they weren't included in the initial submission. There are also other items that were not provided because we were waiting on third parties. We also were waiting on hydrology studies. We'll serve letters from the wastewater district, as well as interaction with several town departments. We had the preliminary plan TRC meeting on this application this afternoon, and I think we've resolved most of those outstanding issues that we had at the last hearing stage. And so, again, we would have that information filed with the office of the planning staff if it hasn't been provided already. But just to keep the process moving along, we would request that modification to that master plan approval and those waivers this evening.
Anything else?
I certainly can answer any questions, but I think that's all I have for right now.
Is it my understanding that some sewer or drainage pipes have been installed in this town right of way?
Yes, they're
Under what authority?
So, Mr. Romano, I'm not sure how that's particularly relevant to this.
It's going to be relevant to the board's consideration as to whether there's good cause.
Okay, so we have been in discussions with the DPW director, the new DPW director, for several weeks, seeking written correspondence from him pertaining to checklist items, which we've also requested waivers on here, including providing him with plans, which he refused to provide to us. And we have the email correspondence we filed out with your office, with the planning staff's office. We also sought approval from the previous DPW director, and the applicant was under the impression that approval was granted for him to install a drainage pipe for 50 feet of site access, so that access to the site could be granted or provided for the construction crews who were grubbing the site. And that was also a requirement of the DEM grubbing permit, which was granted, and that work was not started until that access was provided and the DEM permit was received.
So that's the extension pipe that's been put in the 50-foot for site access to do grubbing?
Essentially, the Chris Duham, the green engineering, essentially the access to the site is over a drainage swale that's on the property, the subject property site. It's within a drainage easement. In order to get access over that drainage swale, a pipe had to be installed. The pipe was engineered to carry the maximum capacity of the drainage swale should it receive water. The design was submitted to the town, the design was submitted to the DEM. Both are pending. The pipe is installed at risk by the applicant, and it provides for access to the site.
What guarantee do we have that the applicant will not continue to do things, quote, at risk?
Well, there's a permit to do site grubbing, and that's what he's...
No, I understand this, Mr. Gamble, but you're asking the board to grant certain waivers tonight, and we also now understand that the applicant proceeds forward, quote, at risk. What guarantees will the board have that no further at-risk construction or site work will be taken?
The application is before the town staff now, and he's tried to make contacts with DPW staff and the town manager, administrator, so he's here tonight, we can have a statement from him.
Support to consider.
We did speak with the DPW director today, and we explained what was going on.
Okay, so I need to take these things separately, because that's how I'm thinking about it. So, agenda item number 5 is a request that submission of the items listed in the agenda are due with submission of the final plan application instead of with the submission of or during the hearing of preliminary plan application, right? I think that's really important for this board to consider, is that if these items are bypassed during preliminary and go to final, typically with final plan, that's an administrative check of the box, if you will, right? There is no way that we can do that, in my opinion, as a board, to push these things off to final and simply have final be an administrative function by Ashley. It would force a deliberation and review regardless.
So you're correct that typically final is a formality. We're supposed to the degree possible, work all of this out at a preliminary plan stage and condition the preliminary plan on anything that's necessary that we expect the applicant to do and come back and represent to us at final plan. So the concern is pushing technical items to a final plan review. You don't have, or it becomes a lot more challenging to somehow get a condition or get a change or implement something as a result of the information. The reason that the preliminary plan is so heavily engineered is that you're supposed to be able to consider all of that information as part of your preliminary plan review. So when you consider some of the things that are asking to be pushed to final, we're talking about fire marshal and building official, coming to an agreement on occupancy numbers. We're talking about a detailed parking analysis. We're talking about pedestrian connectivity. At final plan, these ships have sailed, and it becomes a lot more challenging for the planning board to implement any requirements that you would want related to these items because you're not getting the technical information that gives you the ability to assess what they're presenting to you at a stage of review where you can commonly condition an application. So if they came back with a parking plan, a pedestrian access plan at preliminary, and you had issues with it and you wanted to condition the pedestrian access, you condition it at preliminary, they come back at final. I look at that condition, I look at that plan, yep, they changed what they were supposed to change, we check the box, the application is final plan has been satisfied in terms of the conditions. When they're coming to you at final with the pedestrian plan and you have issues with it and you want work, we're then conditioning a final, which really shouldn't, that's when all the conditions should be met. So it definitely becomes more difficult. I'm dealing with this right now in another place, and it's very challenging to manage because, again, final is supposed to be the formal, we've done all the things, and this is the final check that we've done all the things. And when you're not getting your technical information until that stage of review, it makes it a lot harder for you to evaluate it and to affect any change on the application. It also, typically, final is done administratively.
there are things that are being asked to be conditioned that I'm not comfortable reviewing and finalizing at a final plan, so it would require that the application would end up having to come back to you. I would at least want it to come back to you. I don't want to make the decision, the sole decision maker as to whether the pedestrian access plan is sufficient or whether the parking calculations are sufficient. That should be a board discussion. The applicant should get direction at preliminary based on what they've given you, and that should get implemented as part of the final plan submission. That's my kind of high-level general approach to reviewing applications, not specific to this applicant or anyone else, just that is the best practice in my experience.
If I may, we don't disagree, we do agree with that. Assessment at the preliminary plan, that's where the majority of the engineering is reviewed. We just need the input from the planning board. We have input from the TRC today, there's corrections or additions that are going to be made. But we want the planning board to have input on the parking plan, the parking use plan. We've submitted this, the pedestrian use plan. We've submitted this, but TRC today wanted additional pedestrian access between the two properties, and we will do that. But we're going to need the planning board's input as well. So to be 100% meeting this checklist, I think we got that, but we just
Can we actually answer that question? Because I'm not so sure that you have met that.
Well, we think we have.
So regardless of whether they think they have or I think they have, I think the point here is that this is intended to be an iterative process. Like, the idea is that at master plan, we talked about parking. There's a condition that specifies how to, like, we want a pretty detailed parking analysis based on the difference of uses. If that has been submitted, then that comes to you, and the preliminary plan is the point in which you have the ability to deliberate and provide that feedback. If you don't like the what's brought to you, that's a condition of approval. Or you direct the applicant to do it a little bit differently. We'll continue this hearing and you can come back next month and we'll talk about your parking again. That's the intent of the preliminary plan. So I don't agree that they need your input in order to get to preliminary. They had that at master plan. Some of these conditions are relatively specific and they were directed to bring them back to you at preliminary. Now they're asking to bring them back to you at final, which, again, for all the reasons I said, complicates the issue.
And we're being asked for a special meeting to review preliminary. I just feel like preliminary is watered down. If we are to proceed with what is being laid out in agenda item 5 and 6 to waive certain things.
You're going to basically be looking at master plan again.
You should.
To some degree, I mean, not exactly, but.
How can we, sorry. I'd like to understand why we are trying to push to final plan here and bypass all of this from preliminary, but still we're being asked to bend over backwards to get a special meeting for preliminary, which just seems like what we're going to get at preliminary is like significantly watered down.
I follow your logic, Mr. Chairman. We filed that request immediately after the last meeting to essentially hold our place in line. But since then, we've supplemented our submission with all of the missing items, with the exception of a few, mostly the statutorily exempt items, which the solicitor explained on the previous application, which we are still seeking approval, waiver from, because they're on the checklist, as well as those that are required prior to preliminary plan approval. Beyond that, we're confident that we have submitted to the planning staff everything that would be required for a preliminary plan hearing on this. That's just the third agenda item we're discussing.
So you withdraw the request to delay, that's where I'm going, why are we debating?
Do you withdraw the request to delay submission of these items until final plan? Yes or no?
Not as far as they refer to checklist items at the
Statutory
and those that are listed only being allowed prior to approval.
No, prior to approval of preliminary plan, is different than statutory requirement delaying submission of DEM permits until.
I follow that, but the checklist is not clear on that point, and so out of an abundance of caution, we're requesting waivers.
Let's stop for a second. I will advise the board to waive the DEM permits. You don't need a physical alteration permit, so the DEM permits until final plan as required by the statute. The checklist items, I will advise the board that state prior to preliminary plan approval should be waived for purposes of certification only, but still required, as we did with the prior application, during the preliminary plan application. So with that understanding, do you withdraw the request to submit these items, any of them, other than the DEM permits, at final plan?
The sewer, Tiverton wastewater district, final approval, I believe is in here, so find it just right. We do have, will serve for the sewer. The sewer is all private, goes to a private pump station, goes to a private force main, goes to a semi-private pump station, so it's really no impact to the town. So we would.
Is that item number 16?
Yes.
Which report?
Which is the last item on your agenda.
It's 16 under the,
But there's
we
some,
need a plan modification.
there's some doubling.
We have 16.
It's also checklist number 40, checklist item number 43. There are some conditions of approval that overlap with checklist items.
So 43 is interpreted to have construction level design permits. So we would ask for that to be pushed to final. It's pending now, but I'm here, so don't ask me.
We're down to the merits, but thank you.
I mean, the checklist requirement reads written confirmation from the Tiverton wastewater district prior to preliminary plan approval that it is able to provide the connection and the sewer demand for the proposed development. It's not a permit to tie in, it's not an approval, it's a letter or written confirmation that they're able to provide the connection and handle the demand.
Good causes.
I'm being advised to ask you what the good cause is.
Was the reliance on the third parties as it relates to the request from the town departments?
So by the final plan, first preliminary.
Because it's a detail that can be provided, it's not reviewed by the board, it's a condition of the board that the sewer authority, the sewer district has to resolve. And again, it's presently pending with Mr. Liberty. To put the whole project timeline on that is what we're asking for a review of. I know it's
My advice to the board would be that you still require it at preliminary plan, not certification of completeness necessarily. And then if there's still a problem where the good cause is shown, where the wastewater district, for whatever reason, is refusing to provide this information, then you can make a condition of final. That's all.
Okay.
It's a lot less onerous than the wetlands permit. You must agree.
That's why I don't understand the delay to final.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you can postpone the stormwater,
Because that's what the state told us to do, Mr. Duman. That's what DEM permits. Otherwise, we'd require it today.
thank you, Mr. Romano.
So, I want to be able to get this board clear on what it is that we are proposing to vote on, right? So, what I am hearing, I'm going to try to recap here, is that aside from those items tied to RIDEM, the applicant has now provided most, if not all of these things as part of the preliminary plan application. I will say that this board has not yet received that. You may have submitted it, but but this board has not yet received it.
Nor has it yet been certified as a complete
And
application.
nor has it been certified complete. So, aside from those write-in items,
Those are checklist items 34 to 37, plus 69. Those, the state has said you cannot require until final.
okay, so aside from those, which will go to final plan, you're saying you now have all of the rest, and we can proceed to preliminary, and you no longer need waivers.
That's correct, as soon as the application is certified, we can proceed.
So, just so that I'm clear, we are now considering these similar to the previous application. Sorry, it's been a long day. So, right now, we're going to say we're going to waive the remaining as for purposes of certification of completeness, but still get it for the preliminary plan review and discussion. Is that what we're saying? Or are we, yeah, see, that's part of the problem. Okay.
No, because to be clear, the DEM requirements that wouldn't be required.
Yes.
Put those aside.
Put those aside. Put those aside. All of the rest that are sitting.
I know.
So
I'm just using the checklist.
And I told you my advice to the board is, and they will actually follow me on this one actually, to put aside the statutory required elements that could only require a final plan.
And as long as that's the position of the board, that that's not going to hold up certificate of completeness, which I'm not saying it will, certainly based on the feedback I'm getting here.
The state law doesn't allow me.
I would agree with you.
I put that right into you before, Mr. Riley. I advised you,
And
I advised the board in writing, and you publicly right now.
just for the record, the checklist items that say prior to preliminary plan approval, I have never used those to certify an application incomplete. The practice that Ed and I use for those is to put them at the end of the certificate that says the following checklist items have to be satisfied as part of the preliminary plan review, but are not used to deem this application as incomplete. I don't want anyone to forget that they're there, but we do not use those as deficiency items. They're not, we can't. It doesn't say that they have to be provided as part of the preliminary plan application in order to even get there. They say, prior to a preliminary plan approval, you have to do this.
Which ones are we talking
There's
about?
a
Checklist items?
there's a handful of them. They have to do with
I mean, we have two
zoning.
applicants in a row, right, and 7 of the same waivers that they're looking for. I just gotta find out.
Which
Really
my opinion is that they're not, you don't need a waiver. I
Right.
don't use those.
Right,
I
right.
can't, but they're asked for anyway in both of these applications. That's fine. I'm just letting the board know, I don't use those for deficiency. I can't, because of the way they're written.
The
But-
prior to approval items are 39,
Yep.
41, 42, 44, and 47.
Yeah, that we're allowed to, that we can discuss. The other ones we cannot discuss, I get that. It's state mandated that we have to allow those.
Well,
These
those,
waivers, right, the 27.
and listen,
Yeah.
one second. Those 5 items say prior to approval.
Yes.
Which actually just explains it is not deemed certification incomplete.
Correct. Yeah, we figured that out between her and I, just, I mentioned that.
In addition, 34 through 36.
34 to 37 plus 69, by statute, cannot require until final plan.
I do understand this. We all do this.
Okay.
I've lost track.
Yes, and I'm desperately trying to get us grounded. I feel like I need a whiteboard, but I don't have one.
I think the confusion is that we're here to, accept these waivers, and it doesn't seem like something that we have to accept.
I think that's
something
part of
that
it,
actually does on a regular basis, but we have this on our agenda, but for what reason?
because the applicant has requested it.
Okay.
There was a whole bunch of other ones lumped in there.
Yes, it's not just those, it's partially that.
Mr. Chairman, if I can clear this up to the board, because again, we didn't put this on here to cause an issue with the board. We put it on here to just preserve our spot in line to have this discussion if we had issues getting these items, because at the last meeting, at that time, we were having significant issues getting these items. At this point, we have submitted what we believe there are items responsive to each of these checklist requests. So we're fine with waiving our request here on agenda items 5 and 6. If we really can have a discussion about agenda item 7, which is where I think we stand in line to discuss.
Okay, so let's recap there. You're withdrawing agenda items 5 and 6.
No.
Are you?
Yeah, so we're okay with withdrawing agenda items 5 and 6, since we've supplemented the file since we made that request.
Okay. That's good.
Okay. Wow.
But withdrawing the motion is necessary.
You want to make a comment there?
It's up to the applicant if they'd like to do.
Okay.
But I'm trying to preserve, the mental gymnastics here from trying to figure out what it is we have or not. If our response from the DPW director is insufficient, that's something we have to discuss with staff. It's not that we haven't provided it.
Sure.
And that's a discussion with that.
So if we waive, you withdraw the motions as part of agenda items 5 and 6. You feel that you have supplied everything required for a preliminary plan. It has not been certified complete, noting that, right? But you want to move to agenda item 7, which is a request for a special meeting for the preliminary plan review.
Correct. I was add a stipulation, which I think the board's already agreed to.
Except for the Bryden ones.
Correct.
Which, by state statute, can go in final plan.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I really don't want to put staff in a position of having to determine whether one of these items has been submitted. And I don't advise applicants as to what to do, but to making sure it's for them to withdraw these requests right now. I don't want to put more on this board either, but staff's going to need some clarity. Is that fair? And if you want, I can try to direct this. Sure. Master plan modification. You're withdrawing that entirely. It's your opinion that you've submitted issue number 2, updated lighting and landscaping plans? Yes. Number 3 was the applicant shall consult the Tiverton Fire Department as to confirm the hydrant placement, geometry, and maneuverability. You've done that? Yes. Confirm in writing whether the environmental site assessment, phase 1 ESA has been conducted. We don't believe that it's applicable. But the condition of the master plan was that you confirm whether a phase 1 ESA had been conducted. Yeah. We're not asking you to do one, just to confirm. You confirm that one was completed.
That runs out.
Okay, and then condition number 5 was obtain formal determination from the zoning enforcement officer regarding proposed uses. You have that zoning certificate? Yes. Number 6 was detailed design compliance statements that the preliminary plan addressing the standards of Appendix A, Article 9, Section 5, including architecture, landscaping, circulation, and signage. You've done that? From council. Okay. You've submitted a detailed parking analysis that accounts for all proposed uses, including but not limited to vehicle storage, clubhouse activities, etc.
We have, but we have comments from TRC today. It's asking for more definition.
So we're prepared to have that discussion out pros and out, based on the information we provided.
It's not how this works.
Right. See, there's a gate here that we have to go through, then we get through.
Okay, so number 7 is debated. Number 9, condition number 9 was
work with fire marshal and building official to resolve discrepancies regarding occupancy calculations. Has that been done?
It's been done today, clarified today.
Was something submitted with the
Yes,
application?
there's a letter as of October 3rd, and that's been forwarded.
Condition number 10, regarding water availability and fire flow. Confirmation of system capacity and utility connection. Has that been
Yes.
complied with? And we're not talking about the prior letter from the North Tiverton Water Department.
We have an updated letter.
Condition number 14, make pedestrian connectivity and provide a plan for pedestrian safety. That's been done.
It's been done, and we've asked, the TRC's asked for additional pedestrian access to divide.
Number 16 was the will serve letter from the Tiverton Water District, which you just told me you don't have.
Do you have that?
You do have that.
No density.
Okay.
We don't have final approval from Tiverton Boss.
The condition was a will serve letter.
We do have a will serve.
Okay. Then the checklist waivers which were requested, aside from the DEM ones. Number 27 was written comments from the ad hoc technical review committee. You don't have that, no, because you just had the ad hoc this afternoon.
I thought it was the master plan. Now we have preliminary.
Well, it was part of the preliminary plan checklist.
We were never going to have it before today.
Right.
I mean, now that we've had the hearing, we don't expect that people let Williams comments.
Okay. Number 43 was confirmation from Tiverton Water District prior to preliminary plan approval that it is able to provide connection and sewer demands. Do we have that?
Sorry, I lost my place.
Number 43 of the checklist.
That's the one that I consider to be the final approval from Tiverton wastewater. And we don't have that. We have a will serve letter.
So you want a waiver of that?
But will that be prior to approval anyways?
No.
Oh,
Right.
yes,
Language
sorry.
does say.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Confirmation from the police department regarding traffic. Number 46.
The request was submitted to the chief, but that's prior to approval as well.
Could you read this?
No. I'm sorry, I didn't intend to, yes. This is one of those that specifically says prior.
Yeah, 46.
Number 59, proposed traffic plan.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
That was submitted to the chief.
And submitted on.
Yes.
Number 61, profiles, dimensions, and cross-sections of proposed pedestrian facilities.
Yes.
That's been submitted.
Yeah. Sheet 7.
Number 62 of the checklist, location and dimensions of proposed easements and rights of way.
Yes.
Number 66 of the checklist, proposed location, direction and footprint of illumination.
Yeah. Yes, we have a lighting plan, yes.
It was also attached to the PDP design state.
Checklist number 67 was proposed signage.
Yes, it's on the landscape plan.
Okay.
So where does that leave us?
69 is automatically by state law to the end. Found.
Where does that leave us in terms of the not strength
From,
of staff?
from the checklist items, all that appears to remain is the comments from the ad hoc technical review committee. From the modification to the master plan, the parking analysis, which is debated between staff and the applicants, as to whether it's been submitted. So I'll say this, and actually he's going to hate me for this, but the state law has changed somewhat, and it's not quite, you can submit something on a napkin, consider that element of the checklist submitted. There has to be some substance to it. Couldn't just take a napkin and write a parking lot on it. There has to be more substance to that. The applicant appears to believe that they've done that.
We have a very nice napkin submitted.
Fantastic. Large cloth. Plenty cool right there. Good. So if they are withdrawing their requests, that's at their own risk. Yeah. Which they let you go with. Okay. How do you take that risk on?
We appreciate the board's intelligence to go through this. It's a lot of time that we spent up on this.
So, that means that we are moving to agenda item number 7.
And I will confirm again, Mr. Riley, for the record, that he's withdrawing
Yes,
agenda items 5 and 6.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Moving on,
Modifications.
and waivers. Agenda item 7 is street legals, applicant seeking a special meeting on its preliminary plan application. So it's at this moment in time that we need to just make sure we're all clear on sort of the steps and the timeframes, those milestones that are important. So staff has 10 days. Can we just review that?
Yes.
Yes, because there's amount of time that the staff is given to review as a minimum. There's a minimum for a butter notification. And if you do the math, that puts us out to a certain date. Do we want to just recap those?
When were the last items submitted? Okay. If October 3rd was the last submittal,
That's the last time we have received it, that Ed received anything from the applicant.
do you agree?
That won't include the TRC comments, which would be as of today, tomorrow, and they can't be before today.
what's that?
And that was as of this morning.
All right, so today,
I would say so.
Well,
even though we don't have
to
the
be fair, it's
TRC.
43, and we don't
No,
have
it's-
those items.
So tomorrow,
Somebody submitted something this morning. I didn't get something this morning.
No,
That's up to
we
you.
received it this morning, so they wouldn't get it.
Okay.
this is why I was trying to advise against waiving all the checklist items like we had off comments. If you want to proceed forward with the time clock on the certification of completeness starting tomorrow, you have to have that waived. I don't know when those comments will be completed to you.
No.
Do they have, you give them a lot of time to get them completed? Just to both ended. We'll get that done. Survive, that's the precedent, then.
Well, I mean, the reality of how that's gonna work, I imagine, is we have to produce minutes for the TRC meeting. Then we're gonna submit them, the minutes back to us. I mean, unless they're gonna write up their own written comment from the meeting today, I don't know how else that's gonna happen.
You again, video transcribed and provided to them.
I mean, that's up to them. If they want to go ahead of the minutes, they can provide us with a summary of the comments that they received at the TRC, and that would satisfy the requirement.
But the time clock for staff to begin certification of completeness does not begin until those comments are
Well,
received.
and this is the again, the problem with time clocks. The time clock stops when an application is certified incomplete. the applicant then is supposed to go collect their deficient items and return to us and hand us a resubmission that is supposed to be like an addendum to the original submission addressing the deficiencies. We are then obligated by law to restart the time clock at the point that we receive a response to a deficiency. When the responses to deficiencies come via an email here and a piece of paper there and then another email on a different day, when are we restarting the time clock? So we've just adopted the practice that every time you hand us something in response to a deficiency, we hit reset, because we don't know what else to do. We can't, by law, not restart a time clock when we're given a deficiency item, but when they come in piecemeal, it becomes very problematic for
So
us.
is it within our purview to require that, in this case, any deficiencies are packaged and delivered as a singular item so that you avoid the death by 1,000 cuts?
That would be super helpful. I'm at the point where I want to write like 3 pages of written instructions for people to follow. Like, when you submit deficiency items, they shall be packaged together, because we keep having these reoccurring issues where Ed and I are 1 1/6 people in an office, and it's getting very difficult to
But we
manage
can't,
all of this.
I don't mean to trouble, we can't control every item that's out there. For example, the TRC.
I understand that, but you should hold those items until you have them, because every time you give me a piece of paper, I have to restart the time clock.
Right.
If I only get 10 days, I'm not gonna use up 9 of those days waiting for your next piece of paper.
But we've submitted.
Basically, it's a tactic to extend the time clock.
We're not afraid of standards.
The easiest and cleanest way to do this is when you have a set of deficiencies, like at the DMV. If they tell me your application's not complete, I don't go back tomorrow with one other line filled in and then be like, am I done? And they're like, no, you're not done, you have 6 other things to go back and do. And put them all together, provide them as a response to the deficiency. That would make everyone's life easier. But when they come in dribs and drabs, we have a moving target.
We're trying to address the staff, the town staff, the DPW, the planning staff, we're trying to address it in a comprehensive fashion. It's not to the satisfaction that I'm hearing, but we're not afraid of extending the time clock, if that's the only issue on this stuff.
Okay. So the only thing that's outstanding now is some official minutes or transcript of this morning's TRC meeting,
That's according to the applicant.
according to the applicant, which is the roll of the dice that you're taking here, right? So when can that, sounded like you were comfortable with a transcript of the TRC?
Sure.
Okay, so the question then is, when will that transcript be provided to staff?
There was comments from Weston Sampson that were going to be provided to us.
Yes.
We don't have those as of yet.
Okay, so that means that just applying the transcript really isn't going to work in this case, because there seems to be some level of back and forth that needs to happen.
We worked out all the details with the fire marshal, so Friday, I would say.
I mean, that's a memo from your engineer, so I would imagine you would be able to receive it when we are.
We have the memo, we'll make sure that you get that
So-
immediately.
So that, the transcripts.
Okay. So then, transcripts, when will those be delivered?
I'd say you want to address the TRC comments, so I would give myself till Friday, if that's all right.
Mr. White?
Yeah. I would also say that if, I mean, the nature of the TRC hearing was such that we solicited comments from fire marshal provided, the written comments which were provided to the record, the consulting engineer had provided a memo, and the building official also provided the same feedback that was in response to other items. I don't think there was anything that was discussed, and we discussed parking, which is also another item on the checklist. I don't think the TRC covered any new ground that's not covered by other submissions. So to the extent that the board, I suppose my question is to the extent that the board is requesting the notes or the information from the TRC meeting in order to deem this complete.
What I want is whatever documentation is required by staff in order to deem it complete. I'm about to ask, what is the standard practice here for written comments from the ad hoc technical review committee? Like, in a perfect world, how would that work and how would we want it to work? Because it sounds like we're starting to jimmy rig things here.
Yeah, so
So in the absence of a little bit of sort of like piecing things together, can we ground ourselves in standard operating procedures that everyone is comfortable with and eliminates the gray area, the ambiguity, and we're all just grounded in SOP?
that checklist item is it's an original checklist item, that's why it says ad hoc. Your technical review committee is not ad hoc anymore.
Yeah.
But I will say that the mechanism of the way it used to be done would have allowed that to be a preliminary plan checklist item. I'm gonna say it's probably a little bit problematic the way that it is because the state law got pretty specific about a technical review and when it happens. So we are flexible on that in the sense that if they want to provide a summary of notes, that's fine. It's the comments. You're gonna get the minutes that Ed produces from the TRC anyway. So if they would like to provide a memo that says, from the technical review committee meeting on October 7th, these were the following comments on our application. I'm not gonna hold the applicant up because of that, because the timing for doing the minutes, it won't always work out, so I'm not gonna make the applicant pay for that situation. So a brief summary of what they took down as their notes is fine. You're gonna get the minutes anyway.
Okay. Then what I'm hearing is Friday.
Well, what I would say is those minutes are responsive to the request because it's to be provided by the administrative officer.
Okay.
So I really don't think, to the extent that we're asked to supplement information, I suppose we can. I don't think that we should be punished on the time clock for certifying it complete.
Okay. What I'm trying to get to is a date for this special meeting, if we're gonna have one at all, right? As opposed to just putting it in our November meeting. Because the other agenda item we have to get to tonight is a rescheduling of our November meeting because it's election day. So, in a hypothetical world where that gets pushed out a week or two, right? Like we're into like mid-November at that point, I'm gonna imagine on today, October 7th, like all of the timing milestones would be sort of sufficed, right? Which would negate the need for a special meeting. Like, you guys aren't going to gain much if we're trying to bend over backward to get something like 2 days earlier than what our reschedule is going to be.
I don't know if we would only gain 2 days for that. Depends on when the application will be certified complete. I would imagine we could gain significantly more than that, actually.
Okay.
We don't know when the application will be certified complete. If it were certified complete tomorrow, in a perfect world for the applicants, that would be October 8th. The staff would have 10 days to certify it complete thereafter, October 18th. That's a Saturday, pushing us off to the 20th. October 20th. Then you need 14 days to notify the butters. Right, so what are we looking at there?
So 14 days would be November 3rd, after the 20th, which then puts us at the 4th. And the 4th is going to get rescheduled. Not going to happen earlier.
I think we fit that out pretty. Okay.
Can I just seek some guidance here? Can we, in the interest of making progress on this front, can we also pull into discussion agenda item?
Yes.
8B, which is the rescheduling of
Yes.
our November 4th regular meeting due to election day, so that we can knock a couple birds with one stone here. So my next ask is of the board. If you can all look at your calendars, and what would be November 11th, if we were to push that out the week, November, yeah.
November 6th, Thursday.
Okay, we got the November 6th Thursday.
As you can't do Tuesday, Veterans Day.
Yeah.
That was put us out to the 18th otherwise,
Yeah.
which you said.
That's too far.
Yeah.
So the option on the table is Thursday, November 6th.
It actually has a little tough.
Does November 6th, the Thursday work? 6:30?
We is our next planning board meeting, right?
Yeah, we need to.
Including this one?
Well, so what we're talking about. So we need to reschedule our November 4th, our regular, because of election day. So the option on the table is November 6th. Based on the math of how everything is going to work out, this preliminary plan review would be on that agenda. All right, you're good, November 6th. Cheryl, Janice, November 6th, good. Rosemary? Okay.
Yes.
Let me get okay. November 6th, is 6:30.
6:30.
Where? We'll figure that out.
Shoot for here.
Okay, we'll figure out the location. Okay, so if that is the case, and we put you guys on that agenda, you don't need a special meeting.
That's how long it's going to take to certify the application complete, then yes.
So I'm gonna give staff the full 10 days, because we bent over backwards a couple of weeks ago here, and then that sort of came back to bite us, right? So I'm gonna just give you 10 days.
I'm not necessarily saying we're taking 10 days,
Sure.
You're getting 10 days.
which is much appreciated, considering everything that's going on.
Sure, sure.
We will expedite the review as quickly as we are able to do so.
But right now, the plan would be to put you guys on the November 6th agenda.
You're good. Do we have to vote on that, because it's supposed to be a long day?
Yeah,
We need a motion for specials?
Yes, we'll get, I'm sorry, do you have a? I don't think it is, no, this is not a continuation, because, which is why we need the time to do so.
So it's Rosemary, so you're clear, the state has changed the requirements for advertising and notice for preliminary plan for major land development. It only requires a 14-day notice to abutters.
How many butters do we have?
You did 3,
Yeah.
We're one of them, and you're one of them.
to town, it's probably the power plant.
Storage, so there's storage.
I don't believe on this one, Doug.
I think they do.
Okay, double check.
Okay, so we're gonna move to a motion. I'd like to entertain a motion to reschedule our regular November monthly meeting of the planning board from November 4th, 2025 to Thursday, November 6th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. at a location to be determined. So Rosemary first, Dick has the second. All those in favor? Okay, there we go.
Next time, you don't need a motion for this applicant, that's a regular meeting, so that'll be fine.
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Danny, for your
Patience.
All right. Anybody mind if we just take 5 to regroup? I think we could all use just a little mental break, maybe some deep breathing, and we will be back here at 9:05 sharp. All right, we are back in motion, and now we're gonna have 2 microphones. Okay, so agenda item 8A, discussion regarding planning for comprehensive community plan statutory update. So I asked that this item to be put on the agenda, and some folks here may remember that this was a discussion topic at a meeting. It's got to be close to a year ago at this point, where we acknowledged that part of our long-term planning had to be about mobilizing for our next comprehensive community plan update. So I reoriented myself in prep for this by rereading the section in our current comprehensive community plan that talked about the process. In full transparency, I was part of that. As sort of an whatever it was called, off of the town council, like ex officio member. But I can't remember the details and sort of the milestones with which at the last go around we sort of walked through things. So I just want to sort of read this very quick paragraph just to reorient everyone, right? And so the 2018 update was initiated by the town council in late 2013, so nearly a 5-year runway. Okay? With the appointment of a 13-member comprehensive community plan advisory committee representing the general public, town boards and commissions and town officials, and chaired by the planning board chair at that time, Louis Speeches. A grant was secured to fund the services of the Cecil Group, a Boston-based professional planning firm who helped with all of the technical assistance. 2 well-attended open forums were conducted on June 11th and 14th, 2014, where the general public expressed their views regarding the content, policy, substance of the plan. The committee had multiple smaller working groups, and net, the draft plan was submitted to statewide planning in 2016. So again, 3 years from the time that the committee got spun up. And it went through formal reviews with the state, and it finally got locked down in 2018. All of that to say is that by law, the plan needs to be updated every 10 years. It is now 2025. We got to pick on this. So I wanted to put that out there, and it feels like I was hoping Stu was going to be here, and I knew Rosemary left. They were actually part of things and could supply some information here. But it feels like we need to start to put together a plan of attack here on this. So what I'm offering to do is to draft a plan of attack, for lack of a better way of putting it, and getting it on the next agenda to talk it through. In the meantime, doing a little bit of legwork to try and dig up some stuff about what we did with Cecil Group and sort of understand, reacclimate myself to the process of the town. Like, would we have to go out to RFP for that? I imagine we'd have to, right? So this is all going to take some time to ramp up. So I want to be able to just sketch all of that out and get it before the board and make sure we're locked in on a general plan of attack, and so that we can start making some forward progress there. That's it. Any comments, questions?
Bill, just on that note, for your information, in the planning office, we have some of the old files that went through phases. I'll need about how it permits a plan.
Okay.
If you need anything like that.
Maybe we can, let me look at my work calendar and see if maybe like on a Friday morning or something like that, I could get it to look at that.
Yep.
Okay.
Did we ask the council to like bring money for us?
I can't remember.
We did, right? We did.
I have recommended that you get a restricted account and that they continue to fund the restricted account, so it sits and accumulates money, and then you have money when you get there, instead of, if you just put it in the general budget, it'll just roll over, it'll get sucked back. from you if you don't spend it, but if you restrict it, then you can accumulate if you're allowed to do it.
Okay. I'll do some homework there and figure out what, if anything, has been.
That may be find that out, but,
Oh.
yeah, we actually pulled some budget information VA requested it to kind of see what was pulled
Okay.
from just our department related to the comprehensive plan, but most of it came through town council.
Okay. Can you get me
Yeah, I think so.
like how much is put aside? Is it in the protected account? Like all of that stuff?
There was a, like, about the,
Anything else on that? Okay, great. We already took care of 8B, which is the rescheduling. So item 8C, scheduling a special workshop on Appendix A zoning ordinance amendment and Appendix B land use and subdivision regulation amendments. So this is the continuation of our workshop from a couple of weeks ago. We agreed at that workshop that we needed more time to get to the balance of the work that we had before us. Are folks open to identifying another date for a special workshop? We don't have anything that's sort of being held. In terms of that, we don't need to do any more prep because all of the prep was done for the first workshop, correct?
I didn't send you the revised.
The revised. Okay, so we want to look at least 2-3 weeks out at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on that. I'm having somebody pull all the sections together that Todd and I presented to you. So
Okay.
we'll have a final set.
Okay. So now is the 7th of October, with the last week in October. That's like 3 weeks away, is that?
We don't have good.
Is 3 weeks away, like?
October 28th.
So Tuesday, October 28th, is that
That do not do it that day.
Okay.
Only because I have a school board here, argument the next day.
I'm not gonna jeopardize that for.
I should write by then, but it's gotta be easy for you guys. We did it on a Thursday last time.
For the 29th or the 30th?
Yeah.
What about the 29th or the 30th?
Either of those are fine for me. It's fine.
Either one, is there a preference on Wednesday? I would prefer the Thursday.
Fine.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so can we lock in Thursday, October 30th?
Anyone needs to say.
6:30 at a to be determined location.
Okay, I just a heads up, I'm not available and all that. Great. Yes, but thank you.
It'll only be the workshop, we will still have.
Yeah, I
public
got
hearing.
moved coming up for my wife. It's just that week, it's just hectic, so I
This just worked out.
Yeah, I know. So I can try to make some kind of, since they love sun opportunities, vote at a regular hearing on regulations. Yeah, on the recommendation decided to townhouse.
Okay. All right, so we got that taken care of. Item 8D, schedule a public hearing for and approve advertising for a public hearing on Appendix B, land use and subdivision regulations and amendments.
We can probably do that at the workshop, but minimum, you'll get the vote, right, you have to go on.
Would we push that to the November 6th meeting?
We should schedule it then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Any concerns? I mean, would we do that for 8E as well, which is schedule an open public meeting to review, revise, and refer to the town council for adoption amendments?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll do that on November 6th as well. All right, so that covers us for 8D and 8E. 8F, appointment of a liaison to the Tiverton Harbor Commission. So Stephen Clark was our prior liaison obviously he's not here. It's come up, I think, and we never refilled it, but given some discussion about proposed development on the waterfront, involving the Harbor Commission in Rydem, which still trying to get some information on. I think it's important for us to be able to have a liaison there. If I could put the mic down for a second, they hold monthly meetings. I forget exactly when those monthly meetings are, but is anybody in a position to be a Harbor Commission liaison?
First, always the second way. I give up. Well, no, he didn't say yes. I said I'm always the second. What meeting I mean? Yep. So it's like a lot of meeting. College manager state. Now you got you there.
The Harbor Commission meets the third Monday of each month at 7 p.m.
Dear, step up one day, yeah.
Yeah. Correction.
Yeah, that would be fine. Thanks.
Thank you for being willing to do that. Let's go to the next objective, please.
Yeah, we'll continue item 8F.
Live.
Your laptop died. I'm sorry. Well, the good news is that AG is just the approval of minutes from our September 9th planning board meeting, September 11th workshop, and the September 15th sidewalk, or site walk.
I always provide the this one. I'm gonna finish up. Yay.
Okay, that would make sense because
Yeah.
I'll see
Yeah.
the other one. Are there any substantive updates to the September 9th? Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of September 9th as provided to us in the packet. Bill, Geiger, Alan. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Cheryl, update from our Tiverton zoning ordinance revision committee.
We haven't met since the last meeting, but we have a meeting on our next. We have our next meeting on the 16th.
Okay. Please. Any updates from the North Tiverton Business Board? No.
Yeah, I owe you the report. I
Yes.
said I would give that to you and I forgot and I owe you that.
Okay, that's fine.
So, you still need for the board to liaison to that committee?
To the North Tiverton Business Board? I thought it wrapped.
Well, it doesn't have a shelf life, like it doesn't have a date in which that committee dissolves automatically, and part of the report and the request from the committee will be that they get established as like a legitimate committee so that they can then take the plan and move forward implementation measures from the plan.
Okay.
I don't know if what the council will do with that, but I expect.
So I think the answer to your question is maybe.
Yeah. I thought it was the so it's so that's what
I believe the resolution that created them doesn't have a sunset date.
You're talking about going into the economic committee? Of the
Economic
development.
Yeah,
I'm not Bruce. I have no idea.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's up to the council. I just know that the members of the North Tiverton Committee the intent is to ask for them to be established so that they can be a steward of the plan
they could be the ones that carry forward implementation that way.
Bill?
Take a rain check on that. Okay. Item 8J, Planning Office update on pending projects.
You have a list of bills coming in? Yeah, no. Okay, so, what I can ask.
We give you a
Let's
rundown
try to do it,
on our heads.
Yeah, let's try to do it. Just as the stats.
All right, you
Right,
want
yeah,
to start?
not merits or anything like that. Okay, so, all projects, still, okay. So right now, currently, we have, one administrative subdivision that we, okay, so we're gonna complete this too. We have 2 minor subdivisions for unified development review. They're not been in front of you, one has been certified complete, the other one has a certification for complete, it's due on October 21st. So it won't be in front of you for the November 6th meeting, it will be for December. We also have outstanding, we have the final plan that was submitted from Tiverton Heights. That certificate of completeness is due on October 9th, and that is currently almost done. It's going to be probably submitted tomorrow. So that's a major land development final plan for Tiverton Heights. So that got preliminary approvals. The Cassett Reserve, sorry, the Cassett Reserve. That was granted preliminary approval in 2022 and then amended preliminary plan approval in 2023. You granted the extension in January for that. So that was the Cassett Reserve. Then we also have in front of us, obviously, we fund street legal, which we're certifying at the moment.
We don't need to read that. We just
So there's that one. And then we also have Sousa Road condominiums. Sousa Road condominiums right now, I believe, the status of that is they're stayed right now. Right. They some adjustments to their application. So no time frame on that yet until they figure out what they want to do. Which one is that? Which one's
Sousa Road condominium.
It goes around seasons, or seasons, yeah. Trilogy, yep. And then we also have, after that, Friendship Farms is on hold, and the time clock on that is
And then
indefinite.
Stafford View.
Stafford Farms right now will be returning in December, according, that's what they told, well, they sent an email to us.
Okay, so they were at the TRC today.
They were at the TRC today. They'll be coming to us in December, most likely, unless Bill can get the changes done. Which I don't know if he can, that's a lot, so he requested December.
Okay.
And that right now is everything that's currently in, and we still have finals pending from applications that had approval last year. 439 Main Road, 331 Main Road, and a few concept plans that have not come back as of yet.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the concept, that's that week's.
Yeah, so right now we have not received anything from the bank on Salmon Farm, and have not submitted anything at this point. We haven't received anything yet from the 1101.
Cannabis.
We haven't received anything from cannabis. We haven't received anything from Scooter Shop, although they may have something coming. The owner stopped by recently, wanted to ask a few questions. And then that's.
Brookdale?
They went away, they withdrew. Brookdale withdrew.
That was a while ago.
A while ago, as did EcoG Energy.
Put the number you carry.
Yeah.
Number of carriers, yeah.
And then Fish Road, I think that was 1101.
1101 Fish, they have not submitted anything to this road. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Highland Farm Highland Ridge Farm does want to proceed, and they want to, he has indicated he wants to come back for another concept plan, this time for more detail, to then get a recommendation on an application process to go forward. So busy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So that concludes our agenda. We got a privileged motion at 9:27.
Second.
We don't need it, but
Oh.
we're good.